Oh, good morning. It is a Monday, and I don't really have a voice, David, because I was talking trash to this dude, Phil, who you don't know, while we were playing the game of cornhole. And also, I have the sniffles. Anyway, welcome to Bring It In Troops, little Zoom from Re-Quarantine show. How are you?
I'm good. I think you're just a little jealous that my voice always sounds raspy.
I do sound a little bit like you. I think that's exactly right.
Yeah. So, well, welcome to the club.
Yeah, there were stuff's happening now where like my family was in the next room and I said, I'm gonna go switch the laundry just so they wouldn't get up to go. But then later they're like, oh, somebody switched the laundry. That's so nice. It's like they just couldn't freaking hear me.
There's certain pitches that I once could reach that are long gone. Not that they sound really good, but at least I could make the sound, but I can't do it. Like I can't even imitate Jerry Seinfeld's falsetto voice sometimes. My voice just won't go there anymore.
And I don't want to break it to you, but I heard that like as a man, the higher you can sing, the more money you can make. So I don't think you're gonna make a lot of money singing.
Certainly, yeah. There's nothing good about my voice and money. I can tell you that. There's no amalgam of talent that allow that to work. Yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, so Team USA was sort of. That's good. That's good. Okay, Team USA was sort of famous for losing the opening game to France, and it seemed like the sky was falling. But you were like, let's not rush too much. Now they've won convincingly against Iran and the Czech Republic. We have a story that we're going to publish shortly after the show that you've written, breaking that down. Maybe give us a little top level analysis of how are we doing?
Yeah. So, well, when we lost to France, I thought the matchup was bad for Team USA because the French they just really play physically and pound you inside, and they have Rudy Gobert, which is always helpful. So you can't do the same thing to their paint, right? And we shot terribly, and I thought we made a mistake in switching every screen because I thought it gave France direction offensively, which isn't helpful for us because Team USA really guards. They do. They're competing hard. They're making things tough. It's a defensive, as you wrote about and talked about on our show with Popovich and his 1972 experience, and he's going after hardcore, tough guys, whatever. But you can explain yourself even more. I didn't let you explain as much as you probably wanted to last time. So they're doing it. I thought of you the whole time watching the Czech Republic game. Like Czech Republic scored well in the first quarter, but they were not easy shots. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not a gambling man, but if I was, when we were losing by 3 or 4, and at one point we were down 10, I think it was 19-9. Oh, I'd have bet a good amount of money on Team USA because there was not Villanova versus Georgetown luck in the Czech Republic. It was going to go fast. We guard, and listen, Kevin Durant can play defense. Okay, Devin Booker can compete. We've got scorers. Chris Middleton guards. Drew Holiday really guards, right? We just take it seriously. Then you got Draymond and Bam Adebayo, and so against France, we competed. I thought the match was bad, and we shot terribly. Durant was bad from 3. Damian was bad from 3. We beat Iran by 1 million points. That they just had no shot. It wasn't fair. But the Czech Republic is a good team. Like they didn't get beat by a lot by these other teams, and we destroyed them by nearly 40 points over 2. It was 73-41, so 32 points in 2 quarters. Not even quite 2 quarters. So we're sharing. Henry, you've been so proud to watch really beautiful basketball. Mm-hmm. Really beautiful basketball where the best thing about NBA players when they get to their peak years, which we have a lot of those guys, they just really know how to play. And it's just watching great musicians jamming. And especially when you're not playing a team that can really compete with you talent-wise. They had one NBA player who's a good player, Thomas Satoransky. But we have 10 guys better than that. Mm-hmm. And so they're competing like crazy on defense. Damian Lillard's getting big steals when the game is competitive. Kevin Durant is stick-handing everyone. His hand's way in there all the time. Draymond is unbelievable. Drew's unbelievable, just guarding the ball. And then offensively, they can't wait to pass the ball. And yet, and I think Damian talked about this in game 1, we need to remember we're Damian Lillard, we're Kevin Durant. We have to have that swagger to make any shot. And so they're doing that, but also walking that line of, but if someone's wide open, I'm going to throw it. And we do. The ball is moving. And we got some uncontested layups in the half court.
Yeah, there's a play. You included a link of this play, which is, I want to say it's like 7 passes, and then Lillard ends up with basically a wide open layup.
Wide open. Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
Like, when does he get a wide open layup? Jason Tatum had a couple of those too, where I know Tatum was thinking, what is going on? Like, is someone coming from behind me? Because he was just so, it really was weird. It was like playing against little kids. And
they're playing, it's because the defense is playing so hard though, right? Like they're flying to like the next guy and the next guy, but then there's like, with threats all over the court, there's always one more guy if you keep moving the ball.
Right. Everyone's a threat. Everyone's a threat. By the way, Draymond Green has not missed a shot in a game yet. No, he hasn't made many, but he's made every 3, every 2, and every free throw, and is doing an amazing job defensively and really sets a tone for some of their facilitating and ball movement. It gets harder now. We got to beat Spain, who's good. Obviously they have a lot of NBA players and tons of experience and national experience. We just played them an exhibition a couple weeks before. They know our stuff. I write about maybe some adjustments we could make. It's in our document that we'll publish today. And then you still got to beat Luka.
Yeah.
And then, or France, we're not sure. I don't know that I've seen the bracket as to who we play next. If we beat Spain, which we should beat Spain, but we may not. But if we do, we'll either play Luka or France. Both are hard. And then we'll probably play the other one. Or Australia, who's very, very good with Joe Ingles and Patty Mills. I know Ben Simmons. Team USA is not going to back into gold. If they win, they're beating the best teams in the world. And I like our chances. I just love the way we're guarding and the connection the team has. Kevin Durant, Pop had a timeout. I wish I could have shown this. And Kevin Durant doesn't blink as Pop is drawing this stuff up. And then when he's done, Kevin Durant stands up and is pointing to the board, and he's walking stuff through with Pop. Like, that's a dude that cares, right? He's also the all-time Olympic scoring leader now for Team USA. And then in a classic Ted Lasso kind of thing, now that we've kind of branded Royal Jelly as just being Ted Lasso, after the game, Jason Tatum scored 27 points, which led our team, and went through a period of time where he looked unstoppable, which he was. Durant said, this guy's going to break my record. And I never thought that. I love that. I love that Durant recognizes, Carmelo had it for a couple of years. Then I came in, and here comes Tatum. That's a culture, right? It's a positive culture there. So kudos to Team USA for getting off the mat against France. They still had a great pool play, and the guys are playing the right way and playing together.
So the next time they play France is going to be, I'm extracting a little bit from your article here, but like you expect it to be different for a couple of reasons. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'd like them to not switch everything. I think that's what France wants and needs, actually. They need to be able to hunt a matchup, whereas we have the ability.
Just to be super clear, what this means is that they get like a 6'7", they get Devin Booker or someone, they get to pick that he's going to guard a huge man after some switching. And that's the focus of their offense. And that's
they can be specific to that. Let's try to get Damian on, one of our big guys inside, right? Or like you said, Devin Booker. Drew Holiday isn't so easy to post, but he's still small.
Yeah.
Or they just know they'll find that eventually. So they'll keep running their offense until they get some matchup that they like, little on big or big on little. And I think we should trap more. I think we should drop coverage some. I think we should hard hedge and recover back some. I think we should just give them more things to think about. And also, whenever we can get 2 guys on the ball, with all the length, our team is not tall, but they're long. I think we can disrupt them with deflections and turnovers, which are runouts the other way. We finished first in block shots in pool play. I think we were 5th in steal. I don't remember, 2nd or 5th in steals, but we had 2 blowouts. So no one's really killing themselves in fourth quarters of 30-point games. So I thought defensively, Nigeria, who plays very athletically, I think led the pool play and steals. But I think we could be up there. Of the teams remaining, we're by far the team that can most not just play the best defense, but also disrupt the most with our defensive chaos. So I'd like to see some of that too. Johnson barely played. Keldon Johnson from the Spurs. Jeremy Grant doesn't play. JaVale McGee doesn't play until the game is, there was 4 minutes left when these guys came in. So he's kind of found his rotation without those guys. But we have them, especially for defensive purposes, Johnson, Grant, and McGee, but haven't needed them in the last 2 games. And they played more against France, actually. So Pop's kind of done what playoffs coaches do, narrowed his rotation a little bit. Probably will continue to do that.
And there was this thing that was happening in the first game against France. You mentioned how like Ryder Cup golfers talk about how playing for your country makes the putt feel a little more nerve-wracking than even $1 million putt on the PGA Tour. And it was weird to see like Damian Lillard or Kevin Durant have the, just hesitate with the ball at times. They seem to have solved that over the Iraq and Czech Republic games.
So we shot terribly. Well, not terribly. We shot poorly against France and ended up leading the entire tournament in pool play in 3-point shooting,
right,
both made and percentage. So that tells you how well we shot the next 2. Yes, I hope it's okay that I use the golf analogy, but it's really one of the most interesting books I've ever read. John Feinstein's A Good Walk Spoiled is the story of I forget which year it was, the 90s Ryder Cup, one of the 90s Ryder Cups, where the world's best golfers come back in the clubhouse, and the term they use is "I threw up all over myself." When that's what they say when they miss a 3-foot putt. But it's ironic in a way. They make no money on these in this Ryder Cup, and they're playing as part of a team, and they're so much more nervous than when they're having to make that putt for their own careers. And yes, literally millions of dollars are at stake in these putts over the course of over a month. They might take 5 putts worth $2 million. This was back then. Numbers are probably even higher now because Tiger was just getting started back then, and numbers have jumped up since Tiger joined the tour. I feel it's the same way when you're playing for your country, for whatever reason, and you're playing with teammates that are stars also, where you're not just the alpha in a sense, like you're on your own team. Yeah, I just thought we were nervous, and it was the first game and all of that too. I don't think we look nervous anymore. We'll see what happens now against Spain, but we definitely solved in the next 2 games.
Okay, so free agency starts tonight. Wow. Actually kind of already started.
Yeah, we should talk about
that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you an interesting thing right away.
Okay.
An agent told me, I've had 2 agents tell me this. One GM will not start before you're supposed to. So I think 6 o'clock today, you're legally allowed to talk, unless he's your own player. You can talk an extension with your own guy, but you can't talk to anyone else till 6 p.m. Eastern time. I will tell you, I know of one agency that probably has 8 deals done. Mm-hmm. Okay. But there's one team they can't talk to. You want to try to guess? Old school. Let's just say old school. It's not an easy question I'm asking you.
Well, it's not the Heat.
It's funny. Right. Looks like they have the Lowry deal done, and they've already offered Duncan Robinson. He didn't accept their first offer.
I'm tempted to say San Antonio.
No. Although I would tell you, I expect to hear news about some players that I'm friendly with today, and I didn't. But no, they normally will talk. It's Mitch Kupchak. Oh. He won't do anything until I guess 6 o'clock. I guess he's got an alarm set on his. Maybe he's got a real BlackBerry. I have a newfangled BlackBerry that's Android device. He might have a real old BlackBerry, but yeah, he won't do it. So yeah.
Are we sure he just doesn't have like a 4:30 yoga appointment or something? Like maybe he just needs a little R&R,
Over the weekend, they just said you can't talk to Charlotte until 6 p.m. Charlotte time.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, well, in context too, it's fascinating because let's talk about this. There's a lot of deals being done, including the biggest one, which looks like Kyle Lowry to Miami as a sign and trade with Toronto.
Yeah. So first of all, how does that strike you? What does that do for the Heat?
Oh, I do. I like your opinion. I'll share mine after. Tell them your first thought. It was great.
Oh, it's just like, I think a little bit about. I was on an indoor soccer team when I was in high school, and we got in like a fight every game.
Was this in London or Portland?
This was in Portland. I don't know why we got in so many fights. I guess we had like bad kids on our team, but we were fucking good. I was by far the worst player, but I don't think we lost a game, and we got kicked out of the league because we just got in fights all the time. I feel a little bit like Jimmy Butler, like Kyle Lowry, like they're just gonna be like this whenever that phrase is about the size of the dog in the fight. Like they're the feistiest dog in every fight now, right? Like they just are.
I want to take a quick timeout and just revisit this indoor soccer group of roughnecks in this nice suburb in Portland. Like what the hell
was not a
wrong with you?
suburb. It was not a suburb. Yeah, we played.
Were you downtown?
Hardcore downtown. This place is like a walk up. Everybody in Portland this time would know this place. I'm blanking on its name, but it was a skating rink in like, you know, actually it's near where the Blazers Stadium is. And you walk up the sweatiest smelling stairs of all time. And I guess to make a little money when it wasn't skating season, like they just like covered it in AstroTurf, and there were, you know, and it was tight quarters. And it was kids that I went to middle school with, and a lot of them had gone off to be elite soccer players at other schools, but we came back together for this thing. And I could nominate who the people were who started most of the fights. And I think they sort of set the tone. And maybe in reality, it really probably was like 4 fights, but it felt like it was 50.
Were these fists thrown or pushing?
Honestly, you wouldn't believe it, David. Like it was literally like, you know, like I remember one, like we had a really, really fast guy on our team, little tiny guy. I'm like, boom, I send the ball out to him, and there's some kind of like some business with the defender. Like, you know, it happens in soccer all the time, right? A little tangled, a little whatever. They both flop down. And like before anybody stands up, it's just like, just like my guy is punching the crap out of that guy. And like we're all like, whoa, like what the fuck? Like we had bench clearing balls. Like we had like that. We went crazy on that team. And here's the worst part of it was I was the guy, like one of the seasons I was the guy who like did the paperwork to get us in the league. And I left the team name blank because we didn't have a name. And the guy calls me and he's like, hey, you gotta like have a name. And I'm like, oh, I was a teenager and I basically like did a bad job. So they just filled in the name of the team that they got kicked out of the league was called Henry Abbott.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so great. I just can't imagine that. I've never thrown a punch in my life or had a punch thrown at me in my life, except for my little brothers.
Yeah.
So I agree with your assessment. I would throw Bam out of Iowa in there. I would throw the Heat culture in there, right? This is going to be I think it's what they need. They're going to lose Dragic and Precious Achua to Toronto, which is good for Toronto. They've got themselves interesting little teams. Dragic is not long for their squad, but Achiwu with my new favorite player in the league, Scotty Barnes, and Pascal Siakam, and Freddie VanVleet, who's I call him Freddie. It's Fred VanVleet. He doesn't deserve to be called Freddie. And OG Anunoby, like they're gonna be talk about another tough team. They're gonna be tough. But no, Miami with Lowry, I think they're a contender if they keep Duncan Robinson. Which word is that they're going to keep Duncan Robinson for about 18 million a year, I think is what I've read, or maybe someone told me that. So yeah, they're going to be very good, Henry. I think the Bucks are probably the best team in the East. They're supposed to keep Bobby Portis. If they do, they get DiVincenzo back. They're going to be pretty damn good. And Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And Brooklyn. They're my top 3 in the East right now until we know what happens with Ben Simmons.
But you are pretty optimistic that they're going to figure something good out.
For who?
Philadelphia is.
Well, I think Daryl's super smart. I think that, I can tell you one GM president told me that what Daryl's asking for is just absurd. And I didn't know if this GM was just saying that. And I listened to a lot of podcasts over the weekend, and it sounds like, no. It sounds like that's what Daryl's doing. He's asking for ridiculous return on Ben Simmons. I had suggested in a tweet that he should go after, now that the Kings have drafted Davion Mitchell, they should go after De'Aaron Fox, and Buddy Hield, who should have gone to the Lakers. We'll talk about that next. And today, someone else suggested that he take Halliburton.
Yeah,
from the Kings and Buddy Hield. I don't think Daryl will do that. I think he wants Fox. I think he wants the better player right now, which Fox unequivocally is. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't know where else. ESPN has a story today with 5 potential trades. I don't really love them. The Damian Lillard one, I think, is possible. Could be CJ McCollum too. ESPN covered both. Could be traded for Damian, could be traded for CJ. But they've got to solve it. I don't think that Ben is the long-term answer there if they want to win a championship. Not that they couldn't, but there's just a lot of water under the bridge there that I think Ben needs a fresh place. And but Daryl will probably figure it out. They don't have to do it tomorrow. They can do it in a week and they can do it in 3 months. But once they do their deal, whatever it is, Philly's going to be in there too. So we might have the first time, Henry, where the East is not only do they have the current champion, but I think they have the better depth because of injuries to the West. When's the last time that happened? I mean,
never. I've been alive for 47 years, David. No, it feels like
early
never.
early 2000s maybe.
Yeah.
No, never. Not for a long time. But because Kawhi's got ACL tear for the Clippers, the Lakers, which we'll again discuss them and have Russell Westbrook, not my favorite third, guy. Jamal Murray, ACL. So Phoenix is good. The Jazz are probably going to keep Conley, but they're going to lose some bench guys, which was a big part of their story. I do think the Jazz can be very, very good. The Hawks are really good. I just think that the balance of power right now is in the East. Luka needs more help. So let's talk Lakers, though. Let's talk about the team that most people would talk about right now is the Russell Westbrook trade.
Yeah. My first thought was, my clearest memory of Russell Westbrook last season was him getting a game-winning block shot.
Yeah.
Which is just an extraordinary thing. He has some special kind of motor in him, right? And ordinarily, I would look at dunks and threes and say, let's just get a sense of his value. And we're gonna add a little star to his, right? Because he's done some very special things for a very long time, and he seems to have just an unbelievable will to fight. I get the sense though that the Lakers were going to get somebody. They were going to get one max or close player to add to Anthony Davis. And of the candidates, right, I would have been more scared of the Lakers if they'd gotten Kyle Lowry, right, or the other candidates, right? Westbrook does have the known shortcoming that he tends to take a lot of shots, even though he doesn't take particularly accurate shots. And he's not, he's not the perfect third star for them. You agree?
For the regular season, I would not agree, actually. I agree with you. I don't agree in the regular season, but you're not talking regular season. You're talking postseason, which is what you should be talking about. I really like him for the regular season because the Lakers' identity now is smash mouth. They've been elite on defense, and where Russell, I don't think, advances the needle defensively, and they got to keep Caruso and those other guys. I think they're going to play really, really hard again. It's kind of Davis and LeBron. It's in their DNA now too. But I think it's very problematic for two reasons. They're just so limited now to who they can bring back. And I think they're spacing offensively. And just the way it's going to play out. LeBron has to be a great shooter. He might be. Anthony Davis has to play more center. Because if you don't play Anthony Davis more in center, now you've got a five that maybe can't shoot. Unless you want to really depend on Marc Gasol, which they didn't want to depend on him last year. Now they have to depend on him because Russell's just a bad shooter. So I don't even have him as a contender right now. Well, first of all, they can't even field the team. They don't have the guys really to field the team. So I want to see who they add. If I thought they were brilliant at finding those minimum players that can really play out of the G League and from Europe, I would feel differently, but I don't have that faith in LA. So I think that it's going to be a mess.
They did find Alex Caruso. They do have Taylor Horton Tucker. And I suspect that they will overperform in convincing this summer's equivalent of Montrezl Harrell to join them, right? But yeah, it's a wild bet, right? It's been a while. There've been wild bets for a long time. And I do, you would prefer to have Buddy Hield because why?
I thought that the trade they could have done allowed them to have more depth and Buddy Hield because he's an elite shooter. He's just a really elite shooter who shoots a lot, makes a lot, has been a defensive liability, but who hasn't been in Sacramento. there's no reason to think Buddy Hield can't play defense. I refuse to believe that. He played for my friend Lon Gruber in Oklahoma. I know he knows how to play. But I think if you think of how what would the championship Lakers team look like going forward, as opposed to going backwards 2 years ago, it would be a close to being the best 3-point shooting team and a team that still guards. So that's probably, a ship is probably sailed now with Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, it's going to be, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think there's more to this, Henry. You have been writing and talking for years about LeBron as a control freak. LeBron OCD in a sense, right? Superstar OCD. Seems like a lot of them have it. Where he just refused to bring in unknowns. And so to be known, you need to be experienced. You need to be around a while. And he did it in Miami. He did it in Cleveland. He's done it now. Old people. There we go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Judy's showing the different articles he's written about it. I saw a Kevin Costner reference. I don't know where that was in there. And so Henry, I mean, Ramona Shelburne has a story about it today, where basically they had to get the sign off, the Lakers did, from LeBron and Davis to make this happen. What I don't know that she wanted to report or could report, but suspect is the case, is LeBron was more of it on the inside of, let's go get him. We know what he is, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's however, teammates disappointed LeBron before Miami, right? Which has been written about. A lot of different things happened. Yeah. People missing practices, hungover, this kind of thing. He had a certain idea in his head, taught to him in grade school, about like routinizing the work. And you set your alarm, you get up early and you clean your room, and just everything is, that's how you win in LeBron's view, which has done miraculous things for him. But I think it gives him this idea, and there are stories to support this, that players who don't follow exactly that aren't trying to win. And so that could break your heart, right? So there aren't a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-olds who have all that down, right? And some players never get it down and still perform at a very high level, right? It doesn't have to be that way. But in Miami, they have a very militaristic culture. You're weighed, there's giant penalties for being late to stuff. And when LeBron went back to Cleveland after Miami, they weren't like that. And it drove him crazy. That's when he had to leave in the middle of the season. And he started tweeting stuff about people being on time, and he went to Miami. Yeah, wait, don't worry. Caleb, the answer is you can be either. It's fine. So I think this is a little bit of what we're seeing is Russell Westbrook is a guy who's shown up for practice on time, probably 5,000 times in a row. So he's in, right? But Taylor Horton-Tucker or whatever it is, we're not there. We don't trust him. Kyle Kuzma, honestly, part of it is just, does Kyle Kuzma get to explore his talents on the court? No. The answer is no. I would watch him. I felt sort of sad. He would run to the corner. He'd run back, play some D. He'd run to the corner. He'd go like this, not get the ball. He'd run back. Now he's a wizard.
And Kuzma had gotten better as a basketball player, as a defender, as a basketball player. And just like Brandon Ingram and Russell and a few other guys over the years, Laker, Zubac, they've gotten out of LA and prospered, flourished, right? Ironically, what you say about LeBron, I think very much defines what he wants, very much defines how athletes are today. I think, I have one in my house. I leave here at 6:55 a.m. to go work players out. I've stopped waking my son up when he was in middle school, 6th grade, when he got a cell phone, because now he can set his own alarm. If you don't get up, you don't get in my car to get to where we're going. And I left him before, one time. That's it. He knows daddy's not messing around. I'm not going to wake him up, certainly not when he's 20. So at 6:40 this morning, when I see the lights in his guest room, the guest room are off, I walked over there. I wasn't going to wake him up. I heard the alarm going off, and I thought, he's going to sleep through this bitch, or he's going to wake up and meet me in my car in 15 minutes, because we're leaving at 6:55. And of course, that's exactly what happened. Now, he had nothing but shorts on, but he was not going to miss. That's how athletes are now. They are programmed to think the way you described LeBron. And I think it's insightful that you recognize that. but it shouldn't be hard to trust these guys. They're mostly like that now. And yet I agree with you. I think that he didn't trust Buddy Hield to be that way.
Or he didn't trust whoever ran whichever team he was on, right? Basically, like in a dream world, there'd be someone just as competent as LeBron who earned LeBron's trust that we're going to use this pick and we're going to do this and this. We're going to have someone who's going to not look amazing for a year or two and then is really going to make a difference, and on and on. Like we're going to make a assembly line and we're going to make a factory and we're going to deliver you the teammates of your dreams. It's going to keep happening, right? We're going to work ahead. We're going to have a long view, right? And it's not like that, right? It's
right.
I feel like this is LeBron, the player who's the best of all time, doing an excellent job as LeBron, the GM, but just one who misses this skill of what do you do with an 18-year-old, right? It's just not his forte. Most teams aren't good at it. This
right,
one, too,
no,
right?
You're right. That's a good point you made. So you mentioned Horton Tucker, and Devin can, if you don't mind, Devin, you can look up what he shot from
Thank
three.
you, Devin.
But I don't remember it being good. I don't remember Horton Tucker being anything but a very good driver slasher. And they're going to have to pay him. They're going to have to pay him some decent money, I think, or in 10 a year. I remember reading that. But I'd say he's a big key. What is Dev is asking? What did Horton Tucker shoot from three last season? Please. I think that he's important because as you talked about, Kuzma had a tight role, lesser than what he wanted. We could argue about all these guys. Tucker is like, fuck LeBron, man. I got to go. I mean, that's how they're thinking. I can't just be this, especially after watch what happened to Kuzma. So yeah, 28% from three last season. That's right. I thought it was bad. So he's going to have to really improve his shooting, but that's not how he made the league, nor is it how he's going to get paid now from the Lakers. He's getting paid because of the other stuff, and he needs to be allowed to do that. So LeBron, and I use this all the time now, he needs to be Ted Lasso to Horton Tucker. He needs to do what Phil Jack did with Trevor Ariza years ago. We talked about this many times. If they want to have a chance to make it do well in the postseason, because they'll be a playoff team, he needs to be a terrific player. Yeah. KCP was experienced by the time they won the championship in Orlando a couple years ago, a year and a half ago. Not even a year and a half ago, barely a year ago, right? October, not even a year ago. So we got to watch that because I think that LA without that is just going to be a player short, maybe two players short.
Devin saying 28% for three. Caleb was pointing out, so he's Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, right. That's the problem.
Yeah,
this is the problem.
There's one other thing happening here, which is, you could go read old John Hollinger per diem columns from a decade ago, but it's been replicated a gazillion times. But basically, it's hard to age if you're counting on athleticism, right? Like if you're past 30 and you're small and need to be super fast to be effective, then you're going to hit a cliff. You're approaching a cliff. They talk about the cliff, right? This is where your production of your career goes and then down. Like by any normal measure, Chris Paul, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, like they're all past where you could expect them to be explosive at all. They're all like in uncharted old man territory, right? Where they're among the most explosive athletes. And it just doesn't happen like this. So I think that's what we're saying when we say like, how's it going to work just in terms of like adrenaline, right? Spring, all the things, all the movement, all the way players move powerfully on the basketball court. Like these are players who count on that. And I don't know how long we can count on that. We're already in the miracle zone.
True. And if it's okay with you, I'd love to get Gerard on because this leads us to the Nets. Right. And it's unfair for me to always pin that team to Gerard, but he knows them better than we do. So
why are you always sticking me with that?
I thought you were going to say we should get Gerard on because he understands the aging.
No,
I mean, I do sit in rocking chairs on vacation.
I'm the expert on the aging part, but no, Gerard, we have a lot of teams to cover with you. So, but let's talk about the Nets because I wrote this actually in our piece. I don't know if it's been edited out yet, but the Nets probably should play the Bucks for the championship next year. I know they can't. They're both the East. But that's two best teams that I see going into the season. And by the way, they drafted another kid that I absolutely love, Raekwon Gray, who is a very, very good talent. We'll talk about him another time. But do you really want to bet on KD who's going to the Olympics, which I know driving Gerard crazy, and Kyrie and Harden. Like again, that's that cliff that you're talking about. They've got it. Kyrie's not near the cliff, but he is injured frequently. So how do you feel the Nets, knowing that the East is loading up and the West has a bunch of really wrecked teams right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the same for me with this Brooklyn squad. You're betting on injury luck, right? That's what it is. But if they do have injury luck, they're the best team to me, right? Like they were with just Kevin Durant and a one-legged James Harden and almost beat the Bucks, right? Like who are the NBA champions? Like, but again, you can't predict that. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, Kevin Durant playing the Olympics, which of course, as coach knows, is driving me bananas, right? Like you guys need time off, man. You got to rest these limbs and these joints and these muscles because we're going back to 82 games now this season. Right? It's just like, no, like you need time to rest. So betting on that's probably not smart, but in terms of talent, yes, they're and all the things we thought were going to be a problem for them, like sharing the ball. They got that covered. They're fine on that. It's just a matter of now, what is Sean going to do with the mid-level exception and all the little ancillary things? Because that's the margins are going to matter for them, right?
That's really important.
What are they going to do with that? Now, we know guys are improving. Guys are getting better. Sean said today that Joe Tsai is totally good with going to luxury tax. I mean, of course he is because he's a multi-billionaire who does stuff with a shady-ass government. We won't get into that. But, that's – so if he's going to pay luxury tax and go deep into the tax, cool. Maybe they can get some guys. And this is now a team, I think. It always used to be LeBron. Like, we got to go chase a ring with LeBron. Okay, you can do that. But you can also chase a ring with this team, right? They're pretty good too. So I think it'll be interesting to see who gets what. I know they want to sign Blake and bring him back. What do they do with Dinwiddie? Do they sign and trade him? We'll see.
But they would have the taxpayer mid-level, right?
Yes.
So yeah, the full mid-level is nearly 10 million.
Yeah, I think the tax is what, 5 or 6?
It's like 5.7. Yeah. So I don't know. I've not been reading who is in the running for that.
They want center help, right? That's a big thing they need. And it's like we talked about on Friday with the draft, right? Of course, ideally you want a rim running, shot blocking guy who can switch. Yes, everybody wants one of those dudes. Like, I don't know how many of those are sitting around for $5.7 million. Probably not many.
They had Jared Allen.
They did.
They sure did.
He's pretty good.
I'll tell you what, we've talked a lot about how, but for an inch of Kevin Durant's foot, they could have beat the Bucks, blah, blah. Like, that's true. But it's also true that they had like 2 games of miracle of Kevin Durant just being exhausted and working crazy hard and having nothing bad happen, right? I felt like actually the luck was mostly on the Nets side in that series, right? Like I felt like I was watching Kevin Durant and I was so nervous about either just sheer exhaustion or injury from sheer exhaustion, and none of those bad things happened.
Him turning into Mr. Potato Head, basically, when all the pieces just fall out. It's like, oh no.
Now I resemble that remark. I want to say one thing about Kevin Durant. I've already said it. I'm gonna say it again. It's worthy of it. If you've watched Team USA, you have to have so much joy in seeing this cat play. God bless. I mean, I was watching the Czech Republic guys on the bench who really did a great job of not being starry-eyed. But they were kicking our ass. They were up 19-9. They had a first quarter lead. Caleb's right. He loves the game so much. I was watching the bench as Durant was raining jumpers down over guys really in his face. Whatever, like he's seen that before with much longer, taller guys in the NBA than the Czech Republic has. But he tries on defense. He really just leaves that stick hand up wherever he goes, and you just like he is the cumulative effect of being really well coached for a long time now, and he listened. So this is why he's one of the best players of all time, because I'm telling you, if he didn't listen, he would be like a lot of other guys who've left so much on the table. He's left nothing on the table. We're getting everything we can get from this guy as a human being basketball player. It is to be lauded. It really is.
Without question. And you guys know this is my favorite player in the league. And it's been my favorite player since he came into the league in 2008, whatever that was. And the conversation was, he can't bench press 185 pounds. Like, He can shoot that rock though. I know that. But this is something I talked to Henry all about. Like, and Caleb said he loves the game so much, wants to hoop nonstop. And I'm like, I know, but they needed to put the ball down, Kevin, please. Just for like 4 weeks, just put the ball down and just don't do anything, please, for 4 weeks.
It's really true. Go ahead, Henry.
I mean, our strength is our weakness, right? Like we're really seeing like Kevin Durant. Like, is it only Kevin Durant because he's how old is he now?
32. He'll be 32 in.
He's already 31 years old.
Yeah.
Good.
So he's
Well, he's
31
32 now,
years
whatever.
into not stopping, right? Which is the only reason he's so good. But also, you know, you probably don't get 36 years of blowing off the doctors, right? Like,
Yes.
so yeah, there's like I don't know. What do you do, David? How do you coach? Like, you know what you're coaching, right? The wave that he's gonna surf on is love of the game, right? And he needs to surf like not too much, right? Like, how do you talk to a player like that?
I mean, it's super hard. It's funny. It's appropriate to our country today and the vaccines. You have to talk science. I do. I try to be really. I gave an example to one the other day. I walk. You guys know 90 miles a month on pavement, and I tend to spend very little money on shoes, $50 or less always. And I definitely it hurts as my age has advanced, whatever. So I spent hundreds of my dollars on shoes. Amazing. What a difference it was. I'm happy to tell you out there what brand it was, whatever. It was a brand I never heard of before, but I did some research. But I wore them out like 3 fucking months. And then I realized that when I get back from walking, I leave them on. They were the only shoes I would wear once I put them on to go walking. And I looked it up. I looked up on another website and said, like, every step is one less step you can take at some point. And then, of course, I look at the bottom of the shoes and they're flat. There's nothing there. And so I bought the next pair, same exact pair. And the second I come back in, they're off and gone. And I told that to a player. And I said, just understand, every time you play pickup, every time you jump and run, different from just shooting, it's one less time you're going to be able to do later on. So make these count, right? And that's why I only walk on my walking, and the player understood what I was saying. Like, it made some sense. You have to give Kevin Durant science. Like, Kevin, I would sit him out until probably November 1. If I was running the Nets, I would ask that he not come into our facility to November 1. Just get away from basketball, and then we'll slowly bring you back in. Because if he's healthy and those other 2 guys are healthy, they're going to be, I mean, the Bucks are going to be terrific, I think. Keeping Portis, if indeed they do, because it looks like they are, huge, because they get DiVincenzo back too. But the Nets with those 3 guys, we know can beat anybody. But I don't know if he'll be willing to do it. He's never shown that willingness before, you know?
Loves that hoop, man.
Well, I think when you've opened every door, but going a certain way, right? Like
Yep.
Everyone who's ever told Kevin Durant there were limitations to what he could do, he listened and he was like, whatever, right? And he's been right, right? He's been right. He's done basically everything you can do in the game. So I think it's probably just a little harder for him to believe, like, an anecdote about walking shoes, right? He's like,
right now, yeah.
He's like, I got that, coach. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. You're saying I wouldn't be able to convince Kevin Durant with my $100 walking shoe story?
I got that. Don't worry. I'm
Give
fine.
it a shot. Give it a shot. You go. I wish
Just like everyone else, you always underestimate Ted Lasso. Always underestimate him. I would say this too about Durant and LeBron. So I grew up as a teenager, and it was Magic and Bird. And what they saved the NBA in part because, like Kevin Durant, they just fucking love to play, but they also love to pass and play the right way. And we went through a generation in the NBA where that wasn't the case. And I think LeBron and Durant, if we could agree that those 2 and Curry defined this era of basketball. Obviously, it's a 20-year era. All 3 of them play the right way. Because each of them could average 40 a game for sure on good teams if they wanted to. If they never have, 30 is enough. But they play the right way. And they guard, and they pass, and they make easy plays. They're just, those 3 guys really define this era. And they still got some oxygen left. You know, they got
what other teams you want to talk about? What they're doing?
Oh, I got a list, baby.
Let's do it.
I got a list. So, well, what's your thoughts real quick on Miami with Lowry?
I love that for Miami. I said it earlier in the chat, like with Lowry, Bam, and Jimmy, like, damn, like, I don't want to play that team. Like I want no part of that. Like, those dudes are going to be like wearing you out physically. We know they're going to guard. Lowry makes all the winning plays. I love that for them. I really, really like that for them because that takes playmaking responsibilities away from Jimmy a little bit, right? Kyle will do whatever, dive on the ball, all the stuff you need. The only thing I worry about Kyle is, are you going to pass that daily body fat test, my guy, in Miami? Like, I know.
They might. That might be more of a guideline than a rule.
Okay, all right.
Raleigh's not stupid. Hey, Judy, if you could go to the very bottom of the document, I looked some numbers up. I was studying the Knicks actually to think about free agency, what they might do, and I because NBA.com allows you to use some filters, I used basically the last 42 games of the season. Who are the best three-point shooters in the league? There's number 7 on the list is RJ Barrett at 45%. And number 2 on the list is Reggie Jackson at 47%. I bring that up because RJ Barrett is he with Julius Randle enough where the Knicks with $50 million to spend can get a third guy, or should they just let that develop and maybe do it in a year? What do you guys think about the Knicks?
Go ahead, Henry. You go first.
That's pretty impressive. Last 42 games of the year, 45% for a guy that wasn't a shooter coming out of college.
Well, so on the one hand, hats off to the Knicks for keeping their cap space, getting some good young players. They're doing everything right. The only thing is, look what you said at the top of the show. Basically, the East is becoming the power in the NBA. The Bucks will be really good. The Wizards got better. The Heat got way better. The 76ers will probably be really good. And there are other candidates too. Atlanta. So suddenly I feel like if you're the Knicks, it's not like the progression they're on is nice, but suddenly it needs to be like turbocharged. And that's where I'd be a little worried. Like, I don't know who you could get right now that with RJ Barrett and Julius Randle is really going to hang with that crew. Right. Anything's possible. But my hunch is you want to be better before you really, they're going to get one more big swing at this, right? And then once you get over the, into luxury tax or over the salary cap, you're not going to add a significant piece without moving heaven and earth. So to me, like, you want to use that for the final piece.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with Henry on that because I think RJ, I think he can develop into a lot more, right? I love what I would love for the Knicks actually, but I think it sounds like he's
Lonzo Ball.
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
I knew it.
I just love that because that moves RJ off ball. He can do all the other stuff, right? And then Randall, you lock him up to Henry's point. He's now, because if he does a 4-year max extension, and he, by the way, does get a max because he made all NBA. What did he make? 3rd team, second, one of those.
13, yeah.
Yeah. That then is someone you can move because you have in theory, superstar level player under contract, right? For X amount of years. But that's the one you move for Damian Lillard or whatever. The big piece is like, all right, now we're going over the top and we're shooting for the championship. But I think there's room to grow there. I think they have an interesting thing to do with Mitchell and oh God, why can't I think of the other center?
For
Nerlens Noel. What do they do there, right? Like, you keep them both, you getting rid of one. And I think quickly can develop more as well. So I like the Knicks' future, and I think they're being smart right now. But like, look, you got a ton of cap space. Don't throw it all at like Evan Fournier or that's not. Don't do that. Like, you're good. Keep doing what you're doing.
Are there players who are looking for that Tom Thibodeau vibe? Honest question. I mean, they won a lot of games with it. It's what I mean, but like
money talks. I asked a player the other day, I asked an NBA player, why would another NBA player that he was talking to go to this team or this team? And he said, money. And it's right. The Knicks are not a destination because they're not contenders. And a lot of these players, I mean, New York City is great, but whatever. I love New York City, but a lot of players don't really care about that. But if you pay them well, Tom Thibodeau is not the reason why you wouldn't do it.
Right. No, but I guess so. Like, players will take a discount to play with LeBron. And probably with Kevin Durant. Like, I'm just wondering, are there players who take a
No.
discount to
Yeah.
play for Tom Thibodeau?
I don't think so. It's a great point. I don't think so. I think that and the concern is, to your point, guys, if you don't spend that money, and I'm all for not spending money stupidly, you may not make the playoffs next year. Like, let's go through the East. You
East
ready?
is tough. Yeah.
So we got the Heat, right? The Bucks, the Nets, the Hawks, the Sixers, the Celtics. I realize the Celtics finished behind them last year. There's 6 right there. Okay. And we haven't mentioned the Knicks yet. Okay. So it's going to be, and the Wizards are going to be pretty good.
And you were talking about the Raptors.
The Raptors we didn't mention.
Yeah, they're on my list.
And Cleveland's going to be better. I mean, they may not make the Cleveland's going to be better. They may not make the playoffs, but you know.
So if the Knicks go backwards, yeah, they're going to have a bunch of money even more so the following year. But to Henry's point, like, they ain't taking no discounts to come to a team that didn't make the playoffs potentially, or a 7-8 seed maybe, and play with Tom.
I will say, though, there are players, Henry, who I think respond to that kind of coaching. I'm not saying they're going to seek it out, but
I agree with you.
If
there
they're
might
in that
be, though,
environment, they're like, I can rock with this.
So, like, Andre Iguodala is a free agent now, right? Like, I don't know anything about him and Tom Thibodeau. It wouldn't shock me if you were like, I just want to go somewhere where everyone's going to show up on time and, you know, do the right defensive rotations. And, you know, it's not out of the question. They only need 1 or 2 players like that to sort of make a big difference to how they play next year.
I had always heard he was going to go back to Golden State. I checked with a source who knows, and his response was, "Well, that's what the media certainly expects." That made me think. That made me think he isn't going back to Golden State. Which I'm not helping the conversation here. I don't know, but I mentioned the Celtics. So if you watched Team USA, like, Jason Tatum was struggling, and then he finally got the faucet turned. And then, whoa, Nelly, to quote Keith Jackson back in the day. Wow, it was Kevin Durant. He isn't Kevin Durant.
Keith Jackson.
He's 3 inches shorter than Kevin Durant, but he looked like Kevin Durant. You couldn't guard him. Whatever, he's making everything. He's a very, very talented player. Jaylen Brown's an all-star level player. They're not going to give back Evan. They're not going to get back Evan 28 probably. Like, they got rid of Kemba. They don't really have a point guard unless they start Marcus Smart there, which they might. I just wonder now, these 2 guys are so dynamic. Add a 3rd stud to them, and they're for real.
Coach, that, my thing, right? When you have 2 under 25 wings who are all NBA level, that is a hell of a good place to start building a championship team. And they got it. They need something dynamic, I think, in terms of shot creation for others. I don't know where you get that from. Obviously, Kemba didn't fit the age and, he started falling off the cliff, all that. What do they do point guard wise? And I think the Time Lord, look, that guy's good, man. Like, let him get time. Like, you're good. He's going to lose you some games. He's going to do dumb shit sometimes, but you play him enough. Now he starts whatever. By the time the playoffs roll around, that dude's a problem. What are you blocking that one game against the Nets? 9, 10? I don't know. Something crazy.
Oh, I love that guy.
He's awesome.
Gerard,
awesome.
I'm not saying that you should create your own Gerard Hector Enterprises poster of a Time Lord. However you want to do it, I'll let your creativity work. I'm not saying you should do it, but I'm not saying you should. Because I'd get that poster right in my office right here. I'd frame it.
Time Lord, man. It's the greatest nickname ever.
Not ever, but in a long time. In a long damn time.
But he's good. And the question is now, too, is Brad good at creating rosters? We don't know. He has no experience doing that. Well, we're going to find out.
Mike Zarin is.
That's true. Mike's Zarin. And that's really probably where the power is, right?
What? All right, guys. So Dallas really wanted Lowry. There's 2. All right, so if you're looking at, John talked about under 25. If we're talking another age down, the 2 best players in the league are Luka and Zion. Mm-hmm. I think, anyway. I don't think metrics would even argue with me.
Might toss Trey in there too, but yeah.
Trey's incredible, yeah. But I mean,
don't forget John Morant. You were saying amazing things about John Morant.
I love John Morant, but these are little guys, right? The little guys, the big guys have more power, right? Mm-hmm. So Luka and Zion. Zion at least has Brandon Ingram, who I think is very talented. I love Brandon Ingram. KP isn't Brandon Ingram. Porzingis, like, what can these franchises do? They both wanted Lowry.
Mhm.
They both were going heavy for Lowry, and it looks like he's doing Miami. So what options do they have? Because those players are not just going to sit back and lose.
No. I would love Lowry in Dallas next to Luka as like then when Luka can go off ball sometimes, like that would be. But what would they have had to give up, right? Like, they
had cap space for him.
Okay, they need I feel like they need a 3-and-D wing. Like again, they need these things which don't grow on trees, right? Like I need someone who can shoot 42% from 3, can guard 1-3. Like okay, sure. Like I don't know where that exists. Like you can't just find that, but I think that's what they need. Someone dynamic like that on both sides. If I'm Dallas, New Orleans, like what is Griff even doing down there? Like I don't even know. Like
why don't they want? I'm friendly with David. I haven't asked him this. I'm an idiot, but he's not going to tell me anyway. Why? What's wrong with Lonzo? I still think he could go back.
That's what I think. But like apparently Zion wants to run point. I'm like, I think right now is what just my read from far away. I haven't talked to anybody about it. They are doing everything with the fear of keeping Zion happy so he doesn't leave. Like so whatever that is, that's what they're doing. Now, I don't know what he's asking for behind the scenes or as representative or anything like that, but that's how I think they're operating right now, which of course, as you know, generally not a great way to operate.
Well, it means you haven't gotten that dream thing I was talking about where your star believes in your vision.
Correct.
Right? Like it means if you're reacting to their latest win, and that means that you're not all on the same page. Right. But I do like David in the document that we planned. David has been like, who are the top 3? And he didn't put Valanciunas in there, so I wrote it in. Like, Valanciunas, come on. He's got a huge beard. He's a giant man. Come on.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, even if he is what you in your brilliant mind thinks he is, I don't see that. Although he is a good offensive player, they need guard help, right? Lonzo,
guard help.
To Gerard's point, Lonzo's fine playing off the ball. He played with Drew, like he's just like Drew's playing. He's a guard. He didn't have to be a point guard. And speaking of point guard, he opted out.
We knew that was coming.
I didn't know because I thought take the 44 and then bet that you're going to be good for one more year and not fall off the cliff and then do a deal. 44 is it's not easy to make that up. He's had to play 2.5 years to get that money, but he opted out. Do you think he goes back to Phoenix? I do.
I think 3 years at 90, 3 years at 100 is on the table
Really?
in Phoenix. Yep, I do.
Lot of money.
It sure is. It sure is.
That's a
He's
lot
the
of
point guard after all, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of money.
What else would you feel okay if you ran the Suns going into next season without him?
Yep. No, I would not.
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't pay that money for him. I like my core too much to bet on a guy that old that he can do it for 3 more years. I would have really begged him to do the 44, or I would have done a more economical 1 year deal where you're in for maybe 60. He wouldn't have done it. He didn't get 90. I get it, but I would have stopped there. I'd have traded him.
There's a lot of value in your ongoing improvement of your team and having salaries decline.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder if they could talk him into that. I wonder if they could give him his 90, but
upfront
45 of it in year one, kind of thing. That would help them bring in the guy who's going to have to play the minutes you won't be able to play in 3 years.
Right? Because they still got to pay Eden and Bridges.
Yep, extensions coming due. I think. Look, part of the problem is coaches, when you make that finals run, you start getting like the itchy. You're like, because truth be told, you don't know if you're ever getting back there again. Like that may have been your shot, like this past June or July, whatever.
That's why Miami is paying Lowry all this money.
Yeah,
because they didn't win a playoff game last year after getting to the finals in October. Yeah, so
winning this league.
Blazers, we still have to keep an eye on them. What they're going to do, they're on the hook with Simmons.
Blazers, what's happening? What's happening in Portland? Nothing's happening there.
And Clippers without
Twitter's
Leonard.
Closed.
Twitter's closed.
Clippers without Leonard, not a contender, right?
Oh, definitely not.
And so if he comes back, he's probably not going to play this year. No.
Probably not till I think. What did I say? January? Like, because it's ACL, right? So he got hurt in May, June, July. August,
yeah. So we're talking a year.
Yeah, yeah, probably a year. But you can probably do 8 months. Although, if it's the opposite leg of where the quad is, or it's the same leg.
I don't remember.
Well, if it's the same leg, I'm worried about that for sure. I mean, I'm worried about it anyway. But
yeah, that's why I say the East has got, because of injuries, the East for a year anyway. They're the better conference. We'll have to write a article about that at some point.
Gotta go all in, man. Especially when you like Atlanta now, they're going all in because they're like, damn, we got to the conference finals. It's like, okay.
All right. It's going to be that time of year people go on vacations. We will not be here next week.
How about Friday?
We'll be here Friday. What's that?
I think, yeah. So we're Friday. By the way, Robert Williams is the second Time Lord. The first Time Lord is our partner.
Yeah, Judy's the Time Lord.
Judy is the original Time Lord.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Gerard. Thank you, David. See you guys on Friday.